The file shouldn't have been there. I name my projects carefully. That's the only part of my life that's organized. Each episode of my podcast gets a folder. EP_031_shoelace_murder. EP_032_Shinkansen_stalker. EP_033_invisible_roommate. Inside, raw audio, script drafts, edits, final export. So when I opened my Horrorcast drive on a Tuesday night and saw a new folder I hadn't made, it felt like finding a stranger's toothbrush in my bathroom. EP_000_the_Tokyo_overpass_murder. I stared at it for a long time. 0. I never use 0. Episode numbers start at 1. That's just normal. I checked the last modified time. Today, 1903. 3 hours earlier. I had been at my office job then, in a meeting about quarterly targets, fighting sleep and fantasizing about quitting to do the podcast full-time. Nobody else had access to my drive. No one even knew the exact name of it. I unplug it when I'm not editing. I don't use Cloud Sync. Paranoid, people call it. I call it I read too many tech horror threads. I double-clicked the folder. Inside were 3 files. Script.txt. Master.wave. Cover.png. The script file made sense. That's what I usually name my scripts. The PNG was a thumbnail, a grainy black and white photo of a concrete overpass, shot from below, streetlights blowing out into halos. I'd never seen it before. And the audio file. Master.wave is the name I give my final mix, right before I export to MP3 and upload. I hadn't recorded anything new yet this week. I swallowed and clicked on script.txt. It opened in my usual editor. Same font, same spacing, even the same little header I always type automatically. Horrorcast, English narration of Japanese horror and true crime. Episode 000, The Tokyo Overpass Murder. Narrated by Ren. My name. The script was formatted exactly the way I do it. Cold open. Beat. Intro. Case background. Investigation. Twist. Echoing outro line. I scrolled, heart thumping. The Tokyo Overpass Murder was good. Too good for something that came out of nowhere. A 27-year-old office worker, Maeda Yuki, leaves her Ikebukuro office at 21:17 on a winter Friday. CCTV catches her at the ticket gate. On the platform checking her phone. Inside the train, standing by the door. Getting off 3 stations later at a quiet neighborhood. She lives alone. She doesn't make it home. At 22:03, a passing cyclist finds her body under the overpass near her station. No defensive wounds. No sign of sexual assault. No robbery. No witnesses. Her phone and bag are there, untouched. The only strange detail in the script is that her face is turned, eyes open, toward the exact angle of the nearby CCTV camera. The camera didn't catch the attack itself. The script explains why. Blind spot, my own typing style says. The killer knew the one place the camera couldn't see. I scrolled faster. The script names the station. A real one, on a line I use twice a week. It names the company she works for. It describes her exact route from the office, past a convenience store I've actually bought bentos in. Past a vending machine with a faded sticker on the side. I knew that sticker. I'd leaned on that machine last month while answering a message. Coincidence, I told myself. The script goes on to describe the online reaction. The news coverage. The theories. Random attack. Possessive X. Serial killer testing the police. The more I read, the more my stomach twisted. Not because of the fictional case. Because of the narrator. Because of me. The jokes in the margins sounded like mine. The little notes to self, pause here, whisper this line, smile on the word accidentally so it sounds more casual. The script wasn't just written in my style. It was written from my mouth. At the end, after the outro, a postscript. Do not record this. But that was funny, right? Like a meta joke. Like something I would write to freak myself out on purpose. Right? I closed the script and moved my mouse, hovering over master.wave. If this was all some kind of AI prank, the audio would expose it. Maybe someone cloned my voice and made a creepy episode to get my attention. Or maybe it was just empty. A 0-byte file from a glitch. The file size said otherwise. Exactly 48 minutes, if the bitrate was what I thought it was. My mouse hand trembled. I double-clicked. The waveform appeared in my DAW like any normal import. The track name was Narration. I hit play. A familiar hiss of room tone, then my own voice filled my headphones. Hi, this is Ren. Welcome back to Horrorcast, where we narrate Japanese horror and true crime in English. Tonight's case, if it's really a case yet, is one I'm not supposed to record. I froze. It sounded like me. Same cheap mic tone. Same pacing. Same bad habit of taking a breath on the word "were" in my intro. If I hadn't known better, I would have sworn I remembered saying those words. I found this script in my own project folder, the voice continued. It was named Episode 000, The Tokyo Overpass Murder. The problem is, it describes something that, officially, hasn't happened. Yet. I gave a soft, humorless laugh. By the time you hear this, either I was wrong and this will just be a weird lost file, or I was right, and I'm about to narrate a crime I could have stopped. The voice went on to summarize the case as I'd just read it, but with more detail. Exact timestamps. 21 hours 17 minutes and 32 seconds, office lobby camera. 21 hours 19 minutes and 7 seconds, east exit escalator. 21 hours 23 minutes and 54 seconds, ticket gate. I heard elevator dings echo faintly under the narration. Keyboard typing. Coffee machine whirs. My own office noises. I paused the track and scrubbed back, isolating the background. This wasn't stock sound design. It was my actual workplace. I recognized the awful tune our elevator plays. My hands shook more visibly now. I pressed play again. Her name is Maeda Yuki, my voice said calmly. She's an assistant at a small advertising firm near Ikebukuro. I know this because I followed her. Silence blossomed under the words. In the story, he added, after a beat. According to the script. According to what I'm reading, not according to my choices. I need you to understand the difference. The episode jumped back and forth between the future crime and my present, in a way that made my head swim. The narrator talked about watching Yuki from a distance. Noticing how she checks her phone every 30 seconds at the crosswalk, even when nothing new appears. How she stands on a particular mark on the train platform every night, out of habit. How she walks slightly faster under the overpass, as if she already senses it isn't safe. I hadn't written this. I knew I hadn't. I don't stalk people for content. I do everything online, court records, old articles, message boards, interviews if I'm lucky. I don't leave my desk. Here's the part that matters, the voice said, 40 minutes into the file. The script describes the moment I talked to her. Papers shuffled. A mouse clicked. There's a note here I don't remember typing, he said. It says, ask her about the guy under the overpass. So I do. Footsteps echoed suddenly, recorded outdoors. The sound of passing cars. The rumble of trains. My own voice, smaller now, without the podcast polish, came through. Excuse me, I heard myself say. Sorry, you dropped this. And then a woman's voice I had never heard in my life answered. Oh, thank you. I'm so clumsy at night. She sounded young. Polite. Tired. My hands left the mouse and clamped around the sides of my headphones. I listened to myself make small talk. Ask about her company. Her commute. Her habit of cutting under the overpass because it saves 3 minutes. I heard my own stupid attempt at a joke. They say you shouldn't walk through creepy places alone at night, I said. All the horror podcasts warn about it. I listen to some of those, she replied. But only in English. I pretend it's not about here. She laughed. I didn't. In the audio, I suggested she take a different route. Takes 10 minutes longer, but it's brighter, I said. She thanked me, promised to think about it, and walked away. For 3 nights, the podcast voice said, she didn't go under the overpass. She took the longer way home. The script changed, a little. The timestamp shifted. The description of her last movements updated itself in my file. He paused. When I say my file, he added quietly, I mean this file. The one you're listening to now. The one that keeps rewriting itself every time I make a different choice. The temperature in my tiny room dropped several degrees. I stopped the playback. Saved a copy of mastered, waved to my desktop under a different name. Opened the properties. Creation date, tomorrow. Modification date, tomorrow. I checked my system time. Correct. I unplugged my headphones and sat back, heart pounding. There were 2 obvious explanations. Somebody was messing with me. Or I was losing my mind. Future files weren't on the list of things I considered possible. Someone could have broken into my apartment, sure. Installed malware on my PC. Cloned my voice from hours of podcast archives and generated this episode as a kind of high-effort prank. But why? And how did they get the office elevator sound? Then there was the other explanation. That I'd made this myself, in some kind of dissociative state. That I'd followed a stranger for research, recorded everything, and then forgotten. I sat very still and tried to imagine it. Leaving my desk early to stake out an advertising firm. Tracking a woman I'd never met along her commute. Learning exactly how long it takes her to walk from the station to the overpass. My stomach turned. I'm a horror fan, not a predator. Ask anyone who knows me in real life. They'll tell you I'm scared of calling the doctor, let alone stalking someone. But the voice in the recording was mine. The mistakes were mine. Even the way I swallowed certain consonants when I get nervous. If this was a forgery, it was perfect. Too perfect. Which brought me back to the worst explanation. That mastered wave really was from a future where I did those things. Where this episode exists because I made it, after the fact, as a confessional. A record. A warning. Or a script. Something for me now to decide whether to obey or not. At the bottom of the script file, under Do Not Record This, a new line had appeared. Do not ignore this, either. I hadn't noticed it before. You're probably thinking what I thought next. Just don't go there. Don't follow the script. Don't go near that station. Don't look up Mayeda Yuki. Don't give the story anything real to anchor to. I closed the file. Turned off the PC. Put my external drive in a drawer. I told myself I'd spend the rest of the week playing games, watching harmless cooking videos, resting my voice like the doctor said. For exactly 36 hours, I managed. Then I was on the train, eyes burning from staring at my phone too long, when the carriage announcement cut through my distraction. The next station is. The name from the script. The quiet neighborhood where she supposedly died. I hadn't meant to come here. I hadn't set a destination. I'd gotten on a random train at Ikebukuro, thinking I'd ride until the end of the line and back, just to be moving. My feet carried me off the train. My hands checked my pockets, phone, wallet, keys, voice recorder. I stood on the platform and felt the weight of an invisible finger dragging down a timeline toward 2203. Coincidence, I muttered. Coincidence. I could have gotten back on the train. I could have crossed to the opposite platform and ridden straight home. Instead, I went up the stairs. At the top, near the ticket gate, was a convenience store. The same chain as in the script. The same faded promotional poster in the window. The same vending machine with the wrapper sticker half peeling on the side. I walked past it, heart hammering. Out on the street, the air felt thinner. The station area was quiet, small. A narrow road sloped gently down, under the tracks, toward the overpass. No police tape. No candles. No flowers. Because nothing had happened here. Yet. A notification buzzed on my phone. New audio file, master 2.wave. I stopped under a streetlight and opened my voice recorder app. I had not been recording. The file wasn't in that app. It was in my cloud drive. The one I never use for the podcast. Fine, I said aloud, my voice shaking. Fine. You win. I put in my earphones and hit play. This time, the recording started mid-sentence. And when I reached the top of the station stairs, I told myself I'd just look, my own voice said, narrating my thoughts from 30 seconds earlier. Just confirm that the overpass looks like it does in the script. Just satisfy that hungry, stupid part of my brain that needs to know. I looked up. The overpass loomed ahead, concrete pillars a darker gray against the night sky. Exactly like the thumbnail image. From this point, the recorded me said, the path splits. On the left, the well-lit detour that takes 10 extra minutes. On the right, the underpass that takes 3. My steps slowed. You want to know why she chooses the underpass, the voice went on. You tell yourself you're here to warn her. To stop her. To change the story. But the only way to do that is to be standing in the right place at the right time, isn't it? I ripped the earbuds out and stuffed them in my pocket. Enough. I turned left. Away from the overpass. Down the brighter road. My phone buzzed again. A new notification. Master 3.wave uploaded. I didn't listen. I walked fast, hands jammed in my pockets, counting my steps, eyes fixed on the ground. When I finally looked up, I was under the overpass. Cold air pulled there, carrying the faint smell of exhaust and damp concrete. The bright road was gone. I stood exactly where the script said the cyclist had found her. An empty plastic bottle rolled by my foot. In the distance, footsteps echoed. High heels. Tapping a steady rhythm on the sidewalk above, then on the slope down. I didn't turn around. Excuse me, a woman's voice said behind me, in careful, slightly accented English. Do you know if it's safe to walk here at night? My heart stopped. I turned slowly. She was shorter than I expected. Black coat. Black tights. Work bag over one shoulder. Her face was open, a little anxious, lit by the streetlight in a way that made her almost unreal. I listened to your podcast, she said, before I could answer. I thought, maybe you would know. My mouth was dry. You, listen, I repeated stupidly. She nodded, smiling, embarrassed. I recognized you when you got off the train, she said. Your voice. Sorry, that sounds creepy. I always listen to horror stories in English on this route. It makes the city feel like a movie instead of real life. She laughed, a short, apologetic sound. I was going to take the longer road tonight, she added. But I saw you, and I thought, well, if the horror guy is here, it's probably okay, right? Somewhere, on some server or drive, an audio file was updating itself. Writing new lines. My fingers itched for my phone. For the script. For anything that would tell me what to say. Instead, I heard myself ask. Do you have 10 minutes? She tilted her head. For what? She asked. For a different ending, I said. I pointed down the brighter road. There's a coffee stand still open, I lied. If you walk that way, you'll get home later, but you'll sleep better. She looked at the darker path under the overpass. Then at the road I indicated. Then at me. You sound like one of your own stories, she said, amused. The guy who appears at the crossroads. She checked her phone. I have a lot of overtime this week, she said. I'm tired. I think I just want to go home. She bowed slightly. Thank you for the stories, she added. Really? They make time pass faster. She walked past me. Under the overpass. Her footsteps faded. My legs refused to move. I stood there, shaking, as my phone buzzed and buzzed in my pocket. New file. New file. New file. When I finally climbed the stairs back to the station, red and blue lights flashed in the distance, reflected briefly on the concrete. I didn't look back. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, the news alerts started. Woman found dead under railway overpass. Possible random attack near residential station. Police request information from witnesses. Her name was not Mayata Yuki. But it was close enough. Same age. Same job description. Same route. The report mentioned a male witness who was seen talking to her at the station earlier. Police wanted to identify him. The thumbnail online was taken from security footage. It showed two figures on the platform. A woman in a black coat. A man in a dark jacket, half turned away from the camera. Even blurred, I recognized my own posture. My own bag. My own bad haircut. My external drive was back on my desk. The EP_000 folder had grown heavier with files. Master.wave. Master2.wave. Master3.wave. Master4.wave. I didn't open them. The script file, though, had changed on its own. The title was the same. Episode 000, The Tokyo Overpass Murder. The victim's name was updated. The time of death shifted by 3 minutes. The section about the narrator trying to warn her had become more detailed, more pathetic. Near the end, a new paragraph had appeared. In every version of this file, it read, I try something different. I follow her earlier. I never go. I call the police. I tell her the truth. She dies under the overpass in all of them. The only constant is my voice describing it afterward. Below that, there is one version I haven't tried yet. Blank space. Then, in my own font. This is the one where I am not the narrator. I sat very still. The cursor blinked at the end of that line. Larger than usual. Like an eye. The bottom of the script remained empty. Waiting. If you're hearing this as a podcast episode, it means I ignored my own warning. It means I recorded anyway. It means the file found its way from my drive to your feed, through servers and apps and autoplay algorithms. Or, it means you found the script some other way, like I did. Maybe you don't run a channel. Maybe you just like reading horror in English late at night. Maybe you clicked on a link that didn't have a title yet. I don't know which version this is. I don't know what happened under the overpass in this branch. I only know two things. 1. The file wants to exist. The story wants to be told. Every time I try to delete it, a new copy appears, slightly longer, like it's incorporating the attempt into itself. 2. In every variant I've read, there is always a point where the narrator addresses the listener directly and says something like this. From now on, the details are up to you. It describes someone sitting alone in a small room, with a microphone and a half-finished script. It describes the moment they decide whether to hit record, whether to share, whether to turn a private horror into a public one. It always ends with the same line. If you repeat this story, if you shape it with your own words, it becomes yours as much as mine. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what I did next. I'm not going to describe the interview room, or the detective's expression, or what I said when they asked why I was there, lurking near the scene, with a voice recorder in my pocket. I'm not going to tell you whether I confessed or whether I insisted on coincidence. I'm not going to give you enough detail to reconstruct it like a map. Because that's how it started for me. A map in text. Labels in a language the story learned to use because I fed it to you. I'll just leave you with this. Check your downloads. Check your untitled projects. If you ever see an episode 000 or test.wave you don't remember making, especially if it mentions a place you know, or route you use, or a death that hasn't happened yet, don't play it just to see. Don't read it out loud for fun. And if you ignore that advice, like I did, and you find your own voice waiting for you in the file, calmly describing things you haven't done, ask yourself, very carefully, who pressed record first? You? Someone using you? Or the story itself? Something under the overpass is still listening. Something in the blind spots between cameras, between facts, between versions. It heard my voice. Now it's heard yours. Everything after this line depends on how you choose to narrate what happens next.